Premieres Wednesday night at 9 on CNN.
Big news today because in just a few hours, President Obama and Russian President Vladimir Putin are set to meet to discuss ISIS as well as Syria, Iraq, everything. The meeting comes amid a surprise announcement that Russia will now share intelligence with Syria, Iraq, and Iran concerning ISIS, the terror group. So let's bring in Madeleine Albright. She, of course, former Secretary of State and U.S. Ambassador to the UN. She is now the chair of the National Democratic Institute and the Albright Stonebridge Group. Great to have you in studio with us.
Terrific to be here. Thanks.
So what are we to make of the news this morning that the Iraqi military is now going to share intelligence on ISIS with Russia, with Syria, and with Iran?
Well, it's a part of the peculiar story here in terms of trying to figure out who is on whose side. I do think what is of concern is that the support for Assad and the Syrian government, while in fact Putin, as I just read, is now saying that our helping the rebels is illegal. So there are kind of a variety of strange threads in this story.
So just to understand it, this should be good news, right? You want Iraqis to get help on the intelligence side and every side in fighting ISIS, but Russia sharing intel, which means there'll be an exchange, is a troubling thing because of their support for Assad and what's going on with the Syria-motivated government right now.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of various parts to this of trying to figure out where this is going. It would be very good to stop the killing in Syria and what is happening to the people there generally. And ISIS is very dangerous, and I think it is good to get cooperation to deal with ISIS. Frankly, the problem really does become one of what are the priorities? I do think that getting rid of ISIS is a priority. And then there is the question about, do we support Assad? What does that really mean? And that's the difficulty of diplomacy and the kind of situation that we're in at this point.
So many different shifting alliances and shifting sands, particularly when it comes to ISIS. Vladimir Putin was on 60 Minutes last night. I don't know if you saw it, but there were moments where he was almost charming. I mean, he was laughing, he was smiling. It was a different image than we certainly have of Vladimir Putin, but he did maintain his position that he must strengthen Assad in order to fight ISIS. That's different than how we in the U.S. see it.
Right. I mean, he does believe that, and what they're trying to do, I think, is the Russians have been interested in having more and more influence in the Middle East. That was something that the Soviet Union did. I think that they do see it as part of their backyard, which somehow seems to keep growing. But I really do think they believe that. And Putin can be charming. I know when I spent time with him when we were in office, he can be nice. But he also, I think we have to remember what his overall goals are, which is, in fact, to restore Russia to a much larger position internationally.
Witness Crimea, witness what's going on in the eastern part of Ukraine right now as we speak. There's active fighting over there that, has kind of made its way out of the media cycle. So President Obama meets with Vladimir Putin. There's a political optic at play here among the U.S. media, certainly, that Obama is weak in the face of Putin, that Putin doesn't respect him. Do you believe that that is true, and do you believe that this is a time to reset tone?
I do not believe that's true. I think that Putin tries to say things in order to kind of dislocate people's thinking, but President Obama is strong and he knows what he wants. And I think that there is a decision that has been made that it is useful to deal with the Russians in order to fight ISIS. There's no question. But I do think that we have to separate how the Russians have dealt with Crimea from what we believe we can cooperate on in Syria. That is what is difficult about this. But as I understand it, President Obama is going to be very clear about Ukraine, and that is something that we care about deeply, that what the Russians did there was illegal.
Are doing.
And are doing, that keep doing. President Poroshenko was yesterday at the Clinton Global Initiative, and he's very clear about the need for help.
It'll be so interesting to see what happens if they really do have a substantive talk about it today. But let's talk about the migrant crisis in Europe. The U.S., Secretary Kerry announced that the U.S. in 2017 will take in 100,000 refugees. Is the U.S. doing enough today?
Well, I think that we need to do more, and it is a crisis that obviously has affected the Middle East and Europe, and I do think that the United States can and should do more.
Why aren't we doing more?
Well, because I think that we are doing so many other things. We have, in fact, contributed a great deal to helping people in the refugee camps in Syria and a number of places in the neighbors, and really are doing everything that we can. I think that we need to adjust ourselves to seeing that this is a crisis that also affects us, and not just kind of looking at what the Europeans are or aren't doing.
How much of it is a function of bowing to the political tone in the country right now with respect to immigrants? It's an ugly narrative. Do you think that slowed the administration from jumping into the fray with the migrants overseas?
Well, I think there is kind of a sense of who are we and what is our job. I see this from a very personal point of view. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country as a refugee with my family, not a terribly sad, difficult story about barbed wire or anything. And I'm such a grateful American. And I was so fascinated by the way that Pope Francis talked about us as an immigrant nation. And I think that is our value system, and we shouldn't be distracted by the fear factor or seeing that foreigners are people that bring crime. I don't believe that. I think it's a mistake to really make that such a point for the American people.
Madam Secretary, great to have you in studio with us. We always love when you come in.
I love being in. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for talking with us. Let's get over to Michaela.
All right, thanks so much. Dr. Ben Carson, nearly even with Donald Trump in the latest polling. Does he still have a Muslim problem? Carson was on here at CNN. He tried to clarify previous statements in an interview with Jake Tapper. Didn't end well. We're going to show you what happened.
What do you think?
I can see you and me walking hand in hand through the park.
Good morning.
In the park.
Attention shoppers, there's a lost couple in the men's department.
There's a great big unkhaki world out there. Explore it in a Subaru Crosstrek. Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
I'm Angela, and I quit smoking with Chantix. For 10 long years, I was ready to quit, but I couldn't do it on my own. I needed help, and Chantix was there, and I did it.
Along with support, Chantix Varenicline is proven to help people quit smoking. It reduces the urge to smoke. Some people had changes in behavior, thinking or mood, hostility, agitation, depressed mood, and suicidal thoughts or actions while taking or after stopping Chantix. Some had seizures while taking Chantix. If you have any of these, stop Chantix and call your doctor right away. Tell your doctor about any history of mental health problems, which could get worse, or of seizures. Don't take Chantix if you've had a serious allergic or skin reaction to it. If you have these, stop Chantix and call your doctor right away, as some can be life-threatening. Tell your doctor if you have heart or blood vessel problems or develop new or worse symptoms. Get medical help right away if you have symptoms of a heart attack or stroke. Decrease alcohol use while taking Chantix. Use caution when driving or operating machinery. Most common side effect is nausea.
I never thought I would be a non-smoker, and I'm so proud.
Ask your doctor if Chantix is right for you.
You pay your car insurance premium like clockwork, month after month, year after year. Then one night you hydroplane into a ditch. Yeah. Surprise, your insurance company tells you to pay up again. Why pay for insurance if you have to pay even more for using it?
If you have Liberty Mutual Deductible Fund, you could pay no deductible at all. Sign up to immediately lower your deductible by $100 and keep lowering it $100 annually until it's gone. Then continue to earn that $100 every year. There's no limit to how much you can earn, and this savings applies to every vehicle on your policy. Call 1-888-865-2166 to learn more. Switch to Liberty Mutual and you could save up to $509. Call Liberty Mutual for a free quote today at 1-888-865-2166. See car insurance in a whole new light. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
What if your father was the prophet? There's a new layer to the story about Warren Jeffs.
I want people to know the truth.
My father became a prophet, and he starts bringing in these 13-year-old lives. What are you thinking?
This is Life.
Premieres Wednesday night at 9 on CNN.
Empire Entertainment has filed to become a publicly traded company. In order for it to survive, I need one of you to man up and lead it. And it can only be one of you.
Don't forget your cookie on this historic occasion.
I never let anything come between friendship, except a bullet.
Show Me Empire. Stream the entire first season only on Show Me. To start your free trial, visit showme.com or contact Shaw.
Canada's Smartest Person is back for a second Smash season. Bigger, better, smarter challenges. Special guest stars. Jazzy Cruikshank.
We are raising the roof here. A barrage of difficulties. Bigger, better, smarter. You just got to be a part of it. Canada's Smartest Person. It all starts October 4th on CBC.
This is CNN.
Republican presidential contender Ben Carson now running neck and neck with Donald Trump. According to a new NBC News Wall Street Journal national poll, the retired neurosurgeon, though, still trying to clarify his stance on the possibility of a Muslim president. In an extended interview on CNN's State of the Union, Jake Tapper pressed him on the issue until his campaign manager stopped the interview altogether. Watch.
You said last week, quote, I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation. I absolutely would not agree with that.
I would advocate that people go back and look at the transcript.
Should a president's faith matter? Should your faith matter to voters?
Well, I guess it depends on what that faith is. If it's inconsistent with the values and principles of America, then of course it should matter. But if it fits within the realm of America and consistent with the Constitution, no problem.
So do you believe that Islam is consistent with the Constitution?
No, I don't. I do not. I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation. I absolutely would not agree with that.
He'd ask you about Islam, if you thought Islam was conducive to the Constitution, and you said Muslims, that you would have a problem with a Muslim being president.
I would have problems with somebody who embraced all the doctrines associated with Islam. If they're not willing to reject, Sharia and all the portions of it that are talked about in the Quran. If they're not willing to reject that and subject that to American values and the Constitution, then of course I wouldn't. And I would ask you, would you be willing to do that? Would you be willing to advocate for somebody who would not do that? Probably not.
I don't assume that because somebody's Muslim that they would put their religion ahead of the U.S. Constitution. And in fact, the U.S. Constitution itself says no religious test.
Yeah, except that I had already said before that anybody from any religion, from any background, if they are, I told you what the criteria were for that. I told Chuck Todd what the criteria were. So he's asking this out of that context.
You seem to be singling out Muslims as individuals who automatically, as a knee-jerk, would put their religion ahead of the country, and I think that offended a lot of people, including a lot of patriotic Muslims.
I think the statement stands.
So you are saying that there is something specific about being a Muslim, that you have to reject Islam in order to be a president?
Well, you have to reject the tenets of Islam. Yes, you have to.
And that's different from an Orthodox Jew or a devout Christian?
If there's a devout Christian who's running and they refuse to reject the ideals of our Constitution, or if they want to establish a theocracy, I cannot advocate for them.
I guess the point is, you seem to be suggesting that Muslim Americans automatically want a theocracy, and I just don't know any Muslim Americans, and I know plenty who feel that way, even if they are observant Muslims.
Okay, in terms of the tenets of Islam, are you familiar with them?
I'm familiar.
The Corpus Juris from the authoritative group of the people who make the rules that goes back to the 10th century AD.
I'm familiar with extremist interpretations of plenty of religions.
I'm not talking about extremist interpretations. I'm talking about what is required. And you have to make a specific declaration and decision to reject the portions of it.
I think one of the things is just, you are a member of a church that there's a lot of misinformation about, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. You're an African American. You know what it's like for people to make false assumptions about you. And you seem to be doing the same thing with Muslims.
In which way am I making a false assumption?
You're assuming that Muslim Americans put their religion ahead of the country.
I'm assuming that if you accept all the tenets of Islam, that you will have a very difficult time abiding under the Constitution of the United States.
Okay.
This interview is over.
Okay.
Did you hear any more?
Silence.
I know. Did you hear any more of the backstory? I mean, that is very unusual for a campaign manager to come in after that long of an interview and to stop things.
Well, it's
down like
ill-advised, but they felt that Jake was harping on one point, and it was supposed to be an extensive interview on different points. The problem is, the point matters. The problem is, the candidate,
it's the point
the
that
candidate
everyone's trying to
seems to
clarify.
be pandering to a xenophobic religious minority in this country that's anti-Islam. And then, as he tried to clarify his position, it does demand clarification.
But I don't know that he's pandering to it. That's how he feels. I mean, I think that was Ben Carson explaining how he truly feels. He doesn't seem to be pandering. I mean, Jake pressed him enough times that I think that's his authentic feeling. Has he sat down yet with Muslim leaders? Remember how he was that was part of maybe the plan? We need to find out.
But those meetings, you know, look, very often, unless you're the Pope, those meetings in a political context are just all show, no go. You say he believes it. I find it hard to believe that a man of Ben Carson's intelligence, and it is formidable intelligence, would paint any group or faith with the same brush. He's too smart to do that.
I am taking him at his word there, since Jake tried a few times to get him to say it
Jake
otherwise.
did the right thing, no question about that. Russia signs a surprise accord to help fight ISIS. That's good. But who are they really helping? Oh, that's troubling. Russia supports an oppressive Assad regime in Syria. This will loom large as Putin and the U.S. president go head-to-head in a much-hyped meeting. We'll get you the inside scoop on the U.S. strategy.
Information is the key to any diagnosis. All of it scanned and indexed, every document available, especially the important ones. Looks like someone's going home.
I'm Angela, and I quit smoking with Chantix. For 10 long years, I was ready to quit, but I couldn't do it on my own. I needed help, and Chantix was there, and I did it.
Along with support, Chantix Varenicline is proven to help people quit smoking. It reduces the urge to smoke. Some people had changes in behavior, thinking or mood, hostility, agitation, depressed mood, and suicidal thoughts or actions while taking or after stopping Chantix. Some had seizures while taking Chantix. If you have any of these, stop Chantix and call your doctor right away. Tell your doctor about any history of mental health problems, which could get worse, or of seizures. Don't take Chantix if you've had a serious allergic or skin reaction to it. If you have these, stop Chantix and call your doctor right away, as some can be life-threatening. Tell your doctor if you have heart or blood vessel problems or develop new or worse symptoms. Get medical help right away if you have symptoms of a heart attack or stroke. Decrease alcohol use while taking Chantix. Use caution when driving or operating machinery. Most common side effect is nausea.
I never thought I would be a non-smoker, and I'm so proud.
Ask your doctor if Chantix is right for you.
China will play an increasingly more significant role in trade with the rest of the world. Just over the past few years, China entered into its first free trade agreement with a developed market nation. China's also looking at entering free trade agreements with a number of other countries as well, including India, Japan, South Korea.
I think a lot of what we're seeing in terms of China opening up into the world sets a very nice setup for future years of a more stable global economy.
For small business owners, it's not just about being good at what you do. You have to get your name out there. Carly caters fabulous food. And it's all about presentation. It's all about the look. That's the role that I can play, helping her build her brand.
She's young, ambitious. She's, me, 15 years younger.
From printing to packing, shipping to marketing, together, there's nothing we can't solve. Go to a UPS store today to see how.
Farm fresh ingredients, step-by-step recipes, delivered to your door for less than $9 a meal. Visit blueapron.com/cook to get your first 2 meals free.
What's it like to be an outlaw? Can they find answers for the dead? Does perfection have a price? This is life.
New season starts Wednesday night at 9 on CNN.
Attention homeowners. Quicken Loans has some very important information regarding the U.S. government's Home Affordable Refinance Program, or HARP. Nearly 3 million homeowners have already taken advantage of this fantastic money-saving program. But there are so many more of you who could be saving hundreds of dollars every month on your mortgage. Quicken Loans is here to help you save money. Why Quicken Loans? The home loan experts at Quicken Loans fully understand the HARP guidelines. We'll work with you to understand your specific circumstances and strive to find the financial solution that's best for you. Then we'll guide you through each step of the mortgage refinance process to make sure that it's both simple and easy. If you weren't HARP eligible in the past, new guidelines could mean that now you are. Give us a call and we'll give you a Quicken Loans mortgage review. It's simple and easy. To learn more about this money-saving U.S. government program, call Quicken Loans today or go to QuickenLoans.com for a mortgage experience that's engineered to amaze.
Anderson Cooper 360, tonight at 8 Eastern on CNN.
We support the legitimate government of Syria. And it's my deep belief that any actions to the contrary in order to destroy the legitimate government will create a situation which you can witness now in the other countries of the region or in other regions.
Vladimir Putin defending his support of Syria President Bashar al-Assad. President Obama set to meet with Putin today comes amid a surprise announcement. Russia has signed an accord that it's going to share intelligence about ISIS with Iraq, Syria, and Iran. So what's going on here? Is that good news or bad news? Let's get some perspective from the United States perspective. Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken joins us now. As we understand it from Secretary Madeleine Albright, this is complicated because you have to take the Russia that you don't like from the Russia that you may be able to work with. What do you see in this surprise accord? Is this a good development?
Chris, I think Secretary Albright's exactly right. What we're seeing now is some limited cooperation, and it's directed at a common enemy, and that's ISIL. And that's not a bad thing. And of course, Iraq is a sovereign country. It has a right to decide where it gets help from. But the coalition that we put together, that President Obama's put together, more than 60 countries, is carrying the lion's share of the burden in Iraq. And we're making slow, hard, but very real progress. A year ago, Iraq was under siege by ISIL, moving on Baghdad, moving on Erbil. It took Tikrit. It took the Mosul Dam. The Yazidis were being slaughtered. All of that has been reversed. It controls 30% less territory than it did a year ago in Iraq. So the coalition is the one that is producing those results. It's slow, it's hard, but it is making progress.
Okay, so back to this surprise announcement where the Iraqi military now says it will share intelligence with Russia, Syria, and Iran, no allies of the U.S. We've read that this caught the White House by surprise.
No, I think what Russia has been trying to do, Russia's actually been pushing this idea of a new coalition. But the fact of the matter is, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. And the Iraqis are deeply cooperating with the coalition of 60 or more countries.
But what was your reaction in the White House when you read that there was this triumvirate of countries who are not friends of the U.S. who are now somehow involved?
If countries are going to focus on a common enemy, and that's ISIL, that can be a good and positive thing. If, on the other hand, they're taking steps to create more sectarian divisions in Iraq, or they're taking steps to prop up the Assad regime in Syria, that's a bad thing.
Were you surprised by it?
No, I don't think we were surprised because we've seen that the Russians have been trying to get back in the game in the region for some time.
Right. Look, you keep getting pressed about being surprised because it looks like a bad thing that you guys would have tried to stop if you had been able to. So it looks like you couldn't stop it and it happened. And the political implication is that now you have to figure out which way this game is headed. If Iran is more important to Iraq using the Quds force on the ground than U.S. fighters because they're not actively fighting, that's a problem. If Russia is now involved with Iraq in a way that they get to be friendly when you know they want to help Syria stay with Assad, that's a problem. So where's the good news?
So again, the good news is if different countries are focused on a common objective, and that's dealing with ISIL and defeating ISIL, that is a positive thing if it's done in the right way. And again, I come back to the proposition, Chris, that Iraq has the right as a sovereign country to look for help from different places. But the lion's share of it is coming from the coalition that we built.
So what is President Obama looking for from Vladimir Putin today in this meeting?
Well, look, we have profound differences, as you know, on Ukraine, on Syria. But it would be irresponsible not to test the proposition that we might be able to make more progress together through these high-level engagements, including with the President. In Syria, Russia is doing two things. On the one hand, it says it's trying to fight ISIL. And again, that can be a positive. But at the same time, it's propping up Assad. It has tremendous influence with Assad. You can't, on the one hand, say you're dousing the ISIL fire with water while you're adding fuel to the fire by propping up Assad, who's a magnet for terrorism, a magnet for ISIL. Russia's in a precarious position. Syria has long been its only foothold in the Middle East. It wants to hold on to that. And at the same time, It has to have one word in its mind: Afghanistan. It can't afford to get caught in a quagmire where its troops get drawn in and in and in. At the same time, it's been trying to make nice with Saudi Arabia, with the Gulf countries, the other Sunni countries. It can't do that if it's propping up Assad, who is the one who is taking the fight to Sunnis in Syria. So Russia has a very complicated problem.
So there's a little bit of a confusion about which Putin the president will be sitting down with, the one who wants to extend a hand or the one who wants to push him out of the way. Same thing with President Obama, which Obama sits down, the one who says, whatever you do, it's okay, I still want to work with you, or I'm glad we've had this moment together face to face, you better stop what you're doing or you have a big problem. Which Obama will it be?
Well, I think it's the President Obama that we've seen all along, someone who marries strength and wisdom at the same time. He has put together this coalition of more than 60 countries that's making progress in both Iraq and in Syria. In Ukraine, we've taken steps with our partners in Europe to put a lot of pressure on Russia to reverse what it's doing in Ukraine, to stop the siege of Ukraine and to allow Ukraine to regain its sovereignty. I think that's the President Obama that President Putin will see today.
I know you didn't get a chance to see Putin on 60 Minutes in its entirety last night, but it was interesting. He was sort of very relaxed. He was cracking some jokes. He was smiling. He was asked at one point, and I won't play it because I don't want to take the time, but he was asked if he thinks that President Obama is weak on international relations. And he said, no, I don't think he's weak. I think that in America, you all are just playing a political football with Putin, basically that his name gets tossed around because it's a political season. What is our take on Putin at this point?
You know, it's focused on President Putin's actions. We've had a track record of cooperation with the Russians on a number of very important issues. It's an important country. That cooperation can make a difference for us and for people around the world. On the other hand, we have real differences based on President Putin's actions, and primarily the actions that he took to violate the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, to deny to the people of Ukraine the right to make decisions about their own future. That's the principal difference. If we can resolve that, then I believe there are real grounds for cooperation. In Syria, though, Russia can play a real and important role. It has influence with Assad, and if it can use that influence to press for a negotiated political transition that leads to Assad's departure, that is the answer to Syria.
So much to talk about today at the UN. We'll be watching closely. Deputy Secretary Tony Blinken, thanks so much for being on New Day.
Thanks for having me.
Great to see you. Michaela.
All right, Pope Francis meeting with victims of priest-sex abuse and vowing to hold predators accountable. Many victims, though, remain unmoved, saying they need actions, not words. Ahead, we're going to hear from a survivor.
What do you think?